It's still January, which means we are still in that lull period of the year where no major games have been released yet for 2023. A lot is riding on Xbox this year, a lot has been delayed to this year for all platforms. 2023 could potentially be one of the biggest years yet, with Starfield, Redfall, Spider-Man 2, Zelda, Star Wars, and so on. So let's sit down, take a look at what's coming out, and talk about what is my top 10 most anticipated games of 2023. Hi, I'm Steve Saylor, an accessibility advocate and consultant in the video game industry, and I'm also blind. If you're wondering how I can play video games if I'm blind, check out the video here or click the link in the description down below. While you're down there, click the like and subscribe button to help keep this channel growing. I try to release videos regularly, so every little click counts. Okay, so how we're gonna break this down is I'm gonna talk and give you my top 10 and talk about each one of them a little bit, and then at the end, I'll predict what might be my game of the year for 2023 and what might be my surprise favorite this year, and lastly, what I think might be the most accessible game of the year. Ready? Let's jump right in. Dead Space. First up is what we have coming up next week, Dead Space Remake on January 27th. I'm usually not a fan of horror games. I don't like them, they don't like me. But after hearing about it from friends who have played a lot of it, they were excited about the quality of life changes they were making in the game for this remake. Also, I was surprised about the amount of accessibility the Callisto Protocol last year, and since that was made by the original Dead Space team, and that got my interest in this genre peaked, I'm gonna give this a try. Do I think it's gonna be my game of the year? I'll say right now, probably not, but hey, what a way to scare me into the year, huh? PSVR 2. I know it's hardware, but I actually liked my PSVR when I first got it. The thing that actually worked for me accessibility-wise was that because the screens were so close to my eyes, it was a little bit easier to see the interface in VR games, but also for games that are not in VR, you can actually play the games in a sort of movie theater-sized screen that actually kind of helped a little bit and made the screen technically bigger for me to be able to see. But I did also have issues with it. I had zero room to move around because the tracking was only done by facing the camera with the headset and Move controllers had the lights, and that's how they were able to track, and that would constantly mess up anytime I turn around or turn anywhere for that matter, and I was constantly going in and out of sync. But with the PSVR 2, it has better resolution in both eyes, and it has inside out tracking, so I don't need any cameras or trackers or specific controllers, basically the same as the Meta Quest 2. The potential negatives are that it does have one cable that has to be connected to a PS5. Plus, I am worried about the eye tracking for me personally. Well, I think it's cool that it basically will render whatever you're looking at and have everything else kind of be a bit blurry. But because my eyes move so much back and forth, I don't know if that will make everything blurry or if it's smart enough to actually follow my eyes, even with the jitteriness of them. So I'm still excited to try it out though, and hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on it, but I'm excited to be able to try it nonetheless. Destiny 2 Lightfall. Okay, alright, it's Destiny. If you know me long enough, you know Destiny's my favorite game of all time, so this expansion I'm super excited for. A new planet, new subclass powers, hilarity is gonna ensue. Don't need to say anymore, definitely highly anticipating this one. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Okay, so Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was one of the first games I ever received from a publisher for review, and it did not disappoint. It wasn't the accessible title that I wanted or hoped for. It wasn't the Souls-like gameplay that was still hard for me and difficult for me to be able to get a handle on at the time. But what I did think was great was the accessibility that it offered difficulty options that didn't make the enemies beefier or smaller with their health. It just meant the damage taken was higher or lower depending on the difficulty. And also the parrying timing was a little bit more relaxed depending on which difficulty you chose, which I thought was actually still a great way to keep the same challenge. It was one of the rare games I rolled credits on, and I have been eagerly awaiting its sequel. The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Okay, well, it's Zelda. It's the sequel to Breath of the Wild, which was the first Zelda I ever played and beat, so hoping there'll be a few improvements accessibility-wise. I've been looking forward to a sequel for a while, as we all have. Do I think it'll be more accessible than the first one? No, not really. Nintendo isn't known for its accessibility in the traditional sense, in that they design for age, not for disabled players. That basically means that they want it so anyone, regardless of if you're 5 or 65, to pick up a Nintendo game and then can be able to play it. So in that sense, the game will be no more accessible than basically just that. I mean, Nintendo's good at Nintendo, and we'll get what we get. But I'm still excited to be able to play the sequel. I've been waiting for this one, and I can't wait to see what it looks like on an OLED screen. Hopefully, it doesn't have the same issues that Pokemon had last year, because woof, that was rough. Suicide Squad kills the Justice League. I've been skeptical about this from the beginning, and that screenshot that just got posted today as I'm recording this did not leave much to my hopes as far as it being potentially accessible. The glimmer of, oh, this could be good, though, that kept me going was that it was Rocksteady. They have not steered us wrong before with the Arkham series. I will admit, though, that even though I finished Asylum and City, I was not actually able to complete Arkham Knight. Oh, because of the damn Batmobile. I couldn't drive the dang thing to save my life. I actually had to look up the ending of that game because I couldn't get past the final mission with the Batmobile where you're going through the tunnels and the tank is trying to chase you down. I couldn't figure that out. I couldn't do it. And so it was the first time that I ever had to stop a game and just look up the ending. Now, when it was announced that Rocksteady was working on a Suicide Squad game, I did have Suicide Squad fatigue. It seemed that at the time, all DC was interested was in Suicide Squad everything. So, but over time, I started to think, but this is Rocksteady. They have always made great games, so hopefully we'll see that here. I think what kind of sort of put me into the anticipation column was at the Game Awards, and they announced that Kevin Conroy was back in his final performance as Batman. Let me tell you, as someone who was in the theater when this was announced and hearing Kevin's booming voice reverberate in the entire Microsoft theater, I got chills and was emotional. So I will gladly play this game just to give honor to the greatest Batman ever. So, I mean, regardless of the Battle Pass thing that was going around, I don't know what that. We're gonna have to wait and see. I hope it's good, but you know, I'm excited to play it. Street Fighter 6. This one, actually, I have had my eye on for a while since they announced the alternative combat control scheme to help those who are new to the fighting genre. And believe it or not, actually, fighting games are surprisingly, and have been for a while, amazingly accessible to blind players. Mainly because of the fighting on the 2D plane, it makes it a lot easier to be able to know where an enemy is based on stereo sound. Now, I actually did get a chance to try out the demo of this at TwitchCon, and it was a ton of fun, even with the new control schemes. Plus the recently announced dynamic controls for local mode, where the game's AI calculates the character's position and situation, such as the distance from the opponent, and it dynamically decides which strategy to use. You still have to be the one to hit the buttons and you have to manually move and parry, but the AI does most of the work. They have described it as button masher mode, which honestly a lot of casual players do anyway in fighting games. So this way it gives us a fighting chance. And because of just seeing how much they are actually putting into the controls of this, I'm actually very curious to be able to see how accessible this could be. So I'm keeping my eye on this one. Spider-Man 2. Okay, all right. Insomniac has been killing it on all fronts with their games. Just saying that up front. The first Spider-Man was my first platinum trophy, by the way. Miles Morales was the first game I ever got to review when I was reviewing the PS5, and Ratchet & Clank was my first Ratchet game, but also was so dang gorgeous and fun and awesome and accessible. Plus the fact that all three of those were top tier for accessibility, I can't wait to see what they do next with Spider-Man 2. I think we'll probably play as both Peter and Miles and potentially Venom. That I'm hopefully excited about. I don't know what that could be like. I don't know. We only saw the one trailer. We know they're working on it. Suppose it's coming out this fall. In my opinion, this is going to be a masterpiece, and I can't wait. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's not delayed. Redfall. This one I'm a little up in the air about, as I don't know what to expect with Redfall, other than it's a vampire FPS game from Arcane. I know we'll know more next week at Xbox Developer Direct, so I'll solidify my anticipation then. However, it is an Arcane game, and the pedigree that studio has for their genius level design and just fun gameplay, plus they did a lot of accessibility into Deathloop with their big update last year, and kind of makes me think that accessibility might be a big thing for them. At least I hope so. Either way, the premise is cool. I've been sucked in from the pun intended. I've been sucked in since they put it, the few trailers they released. I'm in. Starfield. So, confession time, I don't think I've ever actually finished a Bethesda game before. I played a lot of Fallout 3 and 4. I've tried my hand at Skyrim, but to no avail. I thought I could enjoy them, but sadly it just never grabbed my attention long enough. I'm sorry, I know people are like, these are their favorite games, and I apologize, I just could never really get into them. However, sci-fi is my favorite genre, and NASA's space travel is even more so. So hey, if maybe the setting is right on my alley, I can finally sink my teeth into this one. Yeah, pun intended for Redfall. With the pedigree that Bethesda has, I have no doubt it will be good, but how good, we'll have to wait and see. We don't want a Fallout 76 on our hands. I know, it's not the same comparison, but you get my point, I think. Biggest surprise of 2023, Street Fighter 6. Okay, so that's it for my top 10 games. Let's talk about the biggest surprise. I honestly think that Street Fighter 6 might be my surprise game of the year. From what I've heard from friends both in the accessibility community and in general who has played it so far, love the demo time that they had. The hub world, the making my own fighter, the potential for a ton of accessibility here. I think this might be my biggest surprise of the year. Most anticipated game of 2023, Starfield. This is honestly a no-brainer for me. The sci-fi setting, the massive RPG elements, the explorability of space, and the multitude of things I can do in this as an exploring astronaut has me hooked. I'm keeping my expectations in check though, as like I said, I haven't been able to get into Bethesda games before, so I'm hoping it's the setting that'll bring me in and the gameplay will keep me hooked. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, that it's good. And my most anticipated accessible game of 2023, Spider-Man 2. This one is tough, as out of my top 10 games, there could be some amazing accessible surprises here, with Street Fighter, Jedi Survivor, Redfall, and potentially Starfield, which could even be nominees for the Game Awards accessibility category this year. But what I think will probably be the most accessible is Spider-Man 2. Insomniac has the attitude of an indie studio proving itself, while also being one of the biggest PlayStation studios and having the biggest PlayStation franchises right now. The remastered Spider-Man and Miles Morales has such great accessibility, while also Ratchet & Clank is one of my favorite games of 2021. I think it would have won the accessibility award at the Game Awards that year, which, by the way, as a tangent, I'm going to add as my 11th most anticipated game, it would be Forza, because if they even have half the accessibility or even more of the accessibility than Horizon did, Forza Motorsport could give Spider-Man 2 a run for their money. I would love to be able to see a Forza Motorsport and Spider-Man 2 duke it out for accessible game of the year. But with accessibility being one of the core focuses at Insomniac, and knowing the few folks there who are dedicated to making accessibility happen, I have no doubt that this will not only be a hit, but an accessibility hit in PlayStation Studios' arsenal. Here's hoping that while they are still to be slated in the fall of 2023 when it comes out, here's hoping again, it's not delayed, fingers crossed, knock on wood. So those are my top 10 most anticipated games of 2023. Let me know in the comments what's your anticipated game for this year and what may I have missed, and also what I should keep my eyes on. Once again, a reminder, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and while you're down there, click the subscribe button. It will really help this channel a lot. Until next time, I'm proud of you, and as always, I remain obediently yours. Bye.